Right, well, greetings. I'm here speaking with Jermain from fintech startup Emerge. Very pleased to have Jamie here in the studio. So, welcome to the CIO studio, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You've got a huge corporate career from your LinkedIn profile.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your history?
Sure, yeah. So from London originally. I've been in New Zealand for pushing 15 years now. And yeah, started off in London working for Visa. So did an economics degree and then kind of walked into a job in Visa just out of luck actually. Was kind of home visiting the parents one weekend and looking through job ads and just, as you did, looking in the paper in those days. And found that. And so started off kind of in quite a technical role in Visa in the certification team. And then I moved over to MasterCard, which I suppose is like doing the jump from Man U to Man City. It's not often done, but did more of a product role at MasterCard. And that was back when NFC was kind of in really early days. So we did a lot of experimentation with form factors on NFC. And it was just when NFC phones were starting to come out. So that was when MasterCard launched PayPass, and I did a lot of work on the technical specs there. And then worked at a number of the banks in London before moving over here. And since moving to New Zealand, I've worked at Worldline and a few other cards companies. And before starting this up, so most recently was at the Warehouse Group as head of payments. So yeah, it's great to have worked across the whole payments chain from schemes, issuers, acquirers, and merchants. Gave a really good appreciation of how payments worked. And certainly in New Zealand, it's pretty unique and different to the rest of the world, which we can talk about in a bit. But yeah, probably now kind of getting on for 25 years in payments.
And that led you to founding Emerge, which is taking on some pretty big challenges in the fintech space at the moment, right?
It is, yeah. We started with Square One, and I think, you know, as a founder, it really helps to actually have lived through the pain point that you're trying to solve. So as far as Square One was concerned, that was having kids, and both me and Jovan, the co-founder, you know, I've got 3 kids, he's got 2. So kind of living through that experience of trying to teach him about money in a digital world and trying to handle, you know, pocket money when you never have cash on you led us to start up Square One. And then, you know, having done Square One as a startup and, you know, being essentially a SME ourselves, it meant that we also experience those pain points of opening bank accounts, of you know, how banking integrates with our business, and you know, and how much time we kind of spend on servicing our accounts and trying to make payments, etc. So, you know, seeing those pain points meant that we had the chance to start Emerge with a lot of the tech that we built for Square One.
So we stumbled across Emerge, but almost by accident. I think one of my contacts on LinkedIn posted about it, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. And congratulations on what you set up, because the experience from our perspective was amazing. So just go to the website, fantastic design.
Thank you.
Great branding, seamless process. And you may not know this, but we actually threw a real curveball, and the response from your team was amazing. Like, they just worked on it until it was right, and it was fantastic. So very impressed by what you've achieved. And I think you said we're one of the earliest on. So
yeah,
it looks like there's sky's the limit for you guys, right?
Yeah, you would have been definitely very early days. It's been in market for getting on for 3 months now, and we're definitely kind of working with our first customers to make sure there's product market fit and make sure that we're doing, you know, it's got everything that they need in there. And yeah, I think that, you know, the experience that definitely comes from taking more of a first principles view of everything and challenging the way that things are done. You know, we've also got the benefit of actually almost starting with a blank sheet of paper for this. So, you know, it's everything that we've built comes from a digital first principle. And, you know, that's a luxury that the banks don't always have. They've got to kind of serve all people. You know, they've got people who are on there who don't necessarily want to use a mobile phone for their banking. They prefer to have that branch experience. They still want to handle cash. And we can kind of approach things, yeah, as I say, building it from the ground up with that digital first view. So we were the first issuer in Asia Pacific to be part of MasterCard's digital first program. And that allowed us to bring some new innovations to market. Means that we're allowed to actually remove all of the card details from the card, which, you know, it's quite strange if you think that people are essentially walking around with a wallet full of what are passwords, access to the funds in your account. So, we know that kids can do things like they might hold their card up to take a picture of themselves on social media. So having the card details on the front of the card or on the card at all aren't ideal, also if they lose the card. So with Emerge, we actually did a bit more research around that. And the only thing with removing the card details completely is it doesn't look like a bank card anymore. So actually, if you were handing that in at a hotel, they might be a bit confused if they haven't seen the brand and there's no card details on it. So we went with just removing the CVC, so the 3-digit code. So actually, if you do lose your card, someone can't pick it up and use it, which is good. And then longer term, we'll move into areas like dynamic CVC, which is actually where your CVC recycles every 24 hours.
Right, so actually, you can get the CVC on the app, and that's how it works.
Yeah, and if you use it online and a merchant's compromised, then someone can't take your card details because that CVC will recycle.
Yeah, what we really liked about it was because we've got lots of people who come and go in various projects, so being able to hand out a virtual card for them for whatever expenses they may have, and then essentially finish that up or give them a different credit limit or whatever is fantastic flexibility for us.
Yeah, that's a massive feature in there, and starting from the pain point of getting a SME account in the first place. It can take months to go through the whole process with a bank. It's paper forms, it's branch visits, it's booking appointments. And so we've got that down now to around 5 to 10 minutes to actually onboard your company. We've built APIs in with Companies House so you can pull all the director information, full digital AML, and it's bank grade AML. We've built everything to be bank grade. But then once you've got your account set up, as you say, there's all this friction around managing your team. Trying to get cards for your team can be a huge issue in New Zealand and really difficult, let alone kind of managing those and setting limits around them. So once you're set up, you can set your team up, and again, in minutes, you can issue them virtual cards or physical cards, but virtual cards in real time, add to Apple and Google Pay immediately, and then just full control around how those cards are used. So you can limit daily, weekly, monthly spend on them. You can toggle on and off how they can be used, whether that's online, international, etc. And at the moment, we're building in kind of full merchant control as well. So you could drill down into the sort of level that I only want this staff member to be able to spend up to $100 in a Mitre 10 on a Tuesday between 3 and 5 p.m. We'll be able to get that granular with the controls, which is really great for our customers. They want to be able to say this person has X limit, but actually at this merchant, because we know they shop there all the time and they buy supplies for the office, they've got a much bigger limit. So we found that flexibility to be a massive feature for people.
And you mentioned SME earlier on. Is it the mid-market that you've been specifically targeting for this?
Yeah, initially, I mean, New Zealand is a country of SMEs, right? 97% of businesses here are SMEs. So that's where we started. But, this solves pain points for companies of all sizes. So we're about to turn on the ability for sole traders to sign up. And there's some amazing features coming, particularly around payment acceptance. So we're about to release what's called Emerge Pay, which means that in the app, you can just bring up a QR code that anyone can scan and pay you in real time. So fantastic for tradies or sole traders that just need to take occasional payments. Then, if you advance beyond that and you maybe grow and you get a team, we've obviously got the team and the expense management, uploading receipts. You can integrate with Xero, and that's like a real API integration rather than needing to get a bank to send you a form to print off and sign and maybe you have to fax it back to them. I don't know. And then, if you actually need a physical terminal, we're releasing what's called soft POS or tap to pay, where you can actually turn your phone into a payment terminal. So because all phones now are equipped with NFC devices, you can just open up Emerge and then someone can tap their card onto your phone to accept a payment, which is fantastic. And then going to kind of bigger companies, we've talked about expense management and managing larger teams, which is there. We've built in, outside of Xero, kind of full GL code management in the app. So for people who want to actually manually have people log the GL code for a transaction, full receipt management and exporting all their receipts. So we're solving pain points, for all company sizes. I think what's unique with us is we're working really closely with our customers, and we're finding out, what do you want us to build for you? What are your pain points that we can solve? And
Classic
having
product manager.
yeah, absolutely. And having a team that can we release every 2 weeks. So the speed at which we innovate and release, and then working with our customers to find out what they want means that, we can innovate really rapidly.
So this might be a difficult question that you may not want to answer, because I'm fascinated by what your business model is, because for us, all of this is free.
Yeah.
So what does the future bring? Are we going to be confronted with big charges down the track, or have you got a business model that works in a different way?
Yeah, so Emerge will, the being able to set up accounts, get access to transactional services, create cards, etc., that will always be free. With Square One, there's a subscription attached. It's $4.99 per family per month, and the reason for that is because we're dealing with kids' accounts. They don't spend as much as an adult would. They don't hold as big a balance as like a company would. So, our model is mainly around the funds that we're holding for companies, and then we do still get a small amount of what's called interchange, where the merchant pays a small fee to the card issuer for the transaction. We can maybe talk on a little bit about surcharging and interchange a bit later. So we make a little bit on the funds that we're holding and on interchange, and then we will look to bring value-added services as well, which may have a subscription attached to them. Things like payment acceptance. We'd love to be able to offer that for free, but as I say, there are those merchant service fees that need to be paid, so that would have a fee associated with it. So as we solve more and more pain points and release bigger features, there'll likely be some paid-for services as well.
Right, which will be optional. So the core of the system will continue to be free. And I guess that's reassuring for us, because that means that we can lean into it and not have to plan for big costs down the line that we can't necessarily forecast. So I think that's really good. It's
definitely. And it's all about removing friction for SMEs. And, we've done a bit of research, and we think that for companies that have that pain around, they might have one card that they share around the company, a company credit card, and who's got the company credit card today? Need to go and make a transaction, and lost receipts, following up with people, manual processes. The flow that we've built should save SMEs kind of around $1,000 a month per employee. So actually, yes, it's free, but we're also looking at, okay, how do we add value back to the company as well? Because the most important thing for most SMEs is time. And, actually having the time to focus on your business rather than worrying about what you're doing with your bank account.
100%. Yeah, that's a real issue. I mean, you said before that New Zealand is a nation of small businesses. That's absolutely right. But that doesn't mean that they're simple businesses. Even though they're relatively small by world standards, Kiwis have got really complex problems that they're dealing with, and anything that people like yourselves can come up with to make that easier for us is fantastic.
We are, we're a nation of innovators, and New Zealand is often a test bed for new innovations and products that then export out to the rest of the world. So definitely businesses solving some big complex problems here.
So what does you mentioned you integrate with Xero. Are there other platforms that you integrate with?
We're working on building out some more platforms from an accounting point of view. So at the moment it's just Xero, but you can obviously export everything out manually if you need to, and upload it manually to other platforms. But we'll build out with MYOB, and as we start working with some of our bigger enterprise clients, we'll build custom integrations. But other than that, it's mainly focused on transactional at the moment. So, obviously we're integrated with the MasterCard network because we issue MasterCards. We're a principal MasterCard license holder, and we partner with a tier 1 bank here to issue the bank accounts. So, it comes with a New Zealand account number. You can set up unlimited accounts in real time, obviously set up virtual cards in real time. But at the moment, it's, Xero is the number one requested integration. So we focus on building a really tight integration there, not just on transaction feeds, but things like batch payments, where a lot of the time you have to download a file, upload it to your bank, and then go through the approval process. It's like, okay, well, actually, you've set up this batch payment in Xero. It should just be a one-tap approval in the app. So, load it up in Xero, one-tap approval, off it goes to all your payees.
And you mentioned nation event of innovators, where a lot of Kiwis are now flying overseas a lot to grow their businesses internationally. And of course, being a MasterCard, presumably it works anywhere in the world.
Yep. So the cards that we issue here work globally. Anywhere the MasterCard is accepted. Again, there's zero fees on overseas transactions, and including cash withdrawals. So yeah, you can travel with an Emerge card knowing that you're not going to be whacked with fees. And the fact that we don't charge any fees means that they're comparable to kind of any of the international card offerings that you might find.
Yeah, I did a big trip to Europe last couple of months ago, and I'm pretty confident I saved about 2% on transactions fees overall, which was quite a big spend. So that was quite worth having. So yeah, that was great. So what's the big picture? What made you launch in here? I mean, you live here, obviously. That's one reason. But why New Zealand?
As you say, I mean, we both live here, and I think we both identify with some of the challenges around banking here. I mean, New Zealand it's the most profitable place in the world to be a bank at the moment, and that comes along with possibly the least innovation at the moment in the banking space. So we knew there was so much white space just to attack in New Zealand, and so many opportunities here to solve pain for Kiwi customers. So that started, as I say, with Square One. We thought that the youth banking space was somewhere that no one was doing a very good job, and that we could come in and play a big part there. And we've had over 200,000 Kiwis now sign up to Square One, which is fantastic response. So obviously there was a need there. And then from there, no one really doing a great job in the SME banking space. And we looked at overseas. As I said, I'm from London originally, and in the UK now, you've got 67% of SMEs bank with a challenger. So they're moving away from the high street banks. And you've got Starling Bank there, who have probably done the best job in the SME space. You've also got Revolut and Monzo offering business accounts. So yeah, such a massive uptake there because no one was doing a great job in that space. There was so much innovation that could happen. So we were really keen to bring that to the New Zealand market, and we've done a good job with what we can, but there's still huge barriers here, both from a regulatory point of view, but also the actual speed that we're moving with things like open banking and a real-time payments network. So there's only so much we can do without actually there being better infrastructure in New Zealand to tackle some of these problems.
I want to ask about your thoughts about the whole dialogue that's happening about the major banks at the moment around the Commerce Commission, and I know that you won't want to destroy any relationships, but you must have a view on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, probably preface it by saying, obviously, New Zealand's a small country. We know a lot of people that work at the banks, have a lot of friends that work at the banks, and we partner with a lot of the banks. I think that the report that came out it had some good stuff in it. It was only really a stage one of now what is a recommendation, and it's going to take either some stepping in by the RBNZ or the government to actually take action on some of the things that were recommended. But for us, I think one of the things to point out is that none of our service actually relies on us needing to become a bank. We've looked at it, and when the time is right, we'll look to take that step. But there are still big regulatory hurdles. We've got one of the highest capital requirements in the world to become a bank, which is basically the money that you need to just hold on your balance sheet in order to get a banking license. And if you look at the UK, that's £2 million that you need to hold, whereas here it's $30 million, which, as I say, is money that you can't put to work. It's just got to sit on your balance sheet for just in case, essentially. And that's just, and it's valid. You do need to make sure that we have a robust and strong banking infrastructure. But it also means that there's a massive barrier there in order to get a banking license. So they are talking, and there was, the RBNZ came out last week and said they were in discussion with the market about whether there's scope to bring that down to kind of the 5 to 10 million mark, which we think is probably appropriate and strikes a good balance between making sure that, you've got enough capital to be robust, but also it brings down that barrier. So once that happens, we'll certainly explore our options. But right now, we do have a good partnership with a tier one bank, which allows us to offer bank services without necessarily needing to be a registered bank. And, being a bank obviously also comes with a lot of regulatory burden, a lot of, you need to have strong governance in place. But I mean, that's one of the things I think we've done from the get-go, and we always have a risk-first approach. Trust is probably the number one thing in money and in banking. So we've always made sure we've gone above and beyond, both with Square One, where we sit kind of in a regulatory area above where we need to, and also with Emerge. We've got an extremely strong board, Alta Capital, who are our main venture capital partner. They were the major shareholder of Starling Bank in the UK, so amazing experience coming onto the board there. And we basically run our board, run our subcommittees and our governance as if we were a bank already, so that when we do make that step, we're ready.
Right. So from the end user perspective, I'm wondering, is there any reason why you can't effectively be my bank at the moment? I mean, we just have transactions, we don't have any debt that we need to manage. What is the barrier to it being used for all the banking needs of an SME?
There aren't any. I mean, we frame ourselves as a banking alternative. We're not able to call ourselves a bank at the moment, and there's strict rules around that for a reason. You can't just have anyone coming out and saying they're a bank when they're not. So we're a financial services provider, but you get a New Zealand account, you get all your card services set up, all your transactional services can happen through Emerge. And there are at the moment, there's a few things that we need to improve on, like FX, for example. We'd like to get to a place where our multi-currency and FX solutions were kind of on a level with a Wise, for example. And as I mentioned, we're building out some awesome features around acceptance and how to take payments as a business. But I'd say in kind of 6 to 12 months' time, I mean, we feel like we've already eclipsed the banks on quite a number of things, particularly user experience. And just to touch on like the enrichment engine we built, and if you're normally using your banking app and you're looking at the transactions you've made, there's maybe 1 in 10 on there that you're like, what was that? You can't work it out because you get this kind of scrambled merchant name that you're not sure what it is and whatever comes through in the transaction. But we've built a tool that will going to decrypt all that for you. It will give you, the proper merchant name, the logo, where the merchant was, the category, the website, the phone number, kind of everything. So you can instantly know where especially when you've got team members spending, it's even more important to know where they spent. So having things like that, we can already eclipse the look and feel of what the banks have now. But in 6 to 12 months' time, we feel we'll be, especially in the SME space, a long way ahead of what they can offer. Yeah,
so some exciting things coming down the track.
There's lots of exciting things coming,
It's always very reassuring for me to see that kind of conservative old bank account number with the actual money in it. It's much more aligned with something that business people will be comfortable with. They're not having to embrace any kind of massive new technology with any new risks. This is all straightforward, stable stuff with a nice user interface.
Absolutely, yeah. So NZ accounts that we issue, the money that's sent to us, we're linked in with exactly the same banking network as the banks are. We receive the same files that the banks do. Every 15 minutes, those files come in, and we process bank account transfers like any other bank does. And it's a MasterCard, so it's the same card that you're issued by your bank. And at the moment, we're not doing anything in the crypto space.
Security must be a huge concern for you. So can you talk a little bit about how you deal with that?
Yeah, I mentioned before about trust, and so we know that security and risk is so important, and that's right at the top of the list for us when we're looking at what we do and how we do it. So we're looking at ways that we can solve existing problems that happen for all the banks, and how we can actually make Emerge, the most secure of the kind of banking alternatives, I'll call it for now, but that includes the banks. So things like, we see a lot of phishing scams in New Zealand, way more than we'd like to, and we're seeing confirmation of payee, which is supposed to be coming out this November. So that's where when you type in a bank account number, you can do a call out to match the name. So there's so many scams on like Facebook Marketplace, and having the ability to just be able to call and retrieve someone's name associated with that bank account will solve a lot of phishing scams. So we'll be bringing that in soon as the vendor's announced, and we can build that. Also, things like account takeovers, and mule accounts. So because we've got this digital first approach and we're able to do a face match on someone when they sign up and match that to their ID, we don't store the actual image of someone's face, but we can store like a vector reference to their face, which means that if you're doing a transaction over, well, you can set the limit, but let's say you're doing a transaction over $10,000, you can set a setting in the app to say, I want to verify with my face that it's me doing this transaction. So that stops someone hacking into your account, but it also stops mule accounts. So from a money laundering point of view, it stops. That's a big problem in the UK, where people will ask someone to open an account for them, and basically they then take the account over and use it for criminal purposes. So having that face that's signed up to the account actually do all the transactions is critical. We're moving away from SMS for verification codes. So when you transact online, it stops someone being able to call you and saying, hey, you just received a code, I'm from your bank, I need to get that code from you. We'll send a push notification into the app that you need to approve, which is a lot more secure. So there's definitely things that we're looking to do above and beyond what the banks are doing now to try and solve that. But in terms of what we need to do, as I say, like the sign up process, you'll go through a kind of 3-minute AML process, but it's behind the scenes. It's pretty incredible what's happening there. Everything from a liveliness check to make sure it's you, to the tamper-proof checks on your ID, to making sure that the ID hasn't been tampered with, that you're not taking a photo of a screen. We call all the international watch lists for PEP and sanctions. So there's an incredibly complex process behind what seems like a very simple solution.
And that's the brilliance of it, is that you have all of that, but you hide that complexity from the user. One of the features I love is that you don't have a password, you just scan the QR code with your phone to sign in, which just makes total sense for me. That's that sort of departure from that tradition of passwords and user IDs, I think is a real... it seems simple enough when you see it, but there's not many organizations doing that kind of thing.
No, and again, that comes back to the whole being able to be digital first. And if a bank tried to say, hey, you need a QR code to log into your online banking and you need to authorize it through your mobile app, then you've just potentially excluded a large portion of your base that don't use your app. So knowing that everyone has to sign up through the app, that they've got the app, means that we can then, the online web portal, that's kind of almost a secondary tool from your mobile. So we know that you can then authorize that and do a 2-factor from your phone, which is much better security. That's
right. I hardly ever use the web portal, actually. It's mostly on the phone for most purposes. So it's pretty impressive. You've indicated a little bit about the future. So there's a bunch of really good stuff right now, but there's a lot more coming. So what would be your advice to, financial managers or CIOs in organizations that are looking to embrace really digital-first approaches like this?
Yeah, I'd say, as I mentioned before, one would be to just attack the problem and break everything down to first principles. So actually challenging why things are done the way they are. Often, people just get used to the norm and assume that's the way it should be. But if you really break a problem down to its core, there are often way better ways to fix it. So kind of attacking it down and keep asking why, like why are we doing it this way, to try and figure out a better way to do it. And then from there, I think, you want to try and kind of, I wouldn't say speed over perfection, but make sure you get something out and you get something out that you can test. A lot of times people will sit behind the scenes and they'll try and make something perfect and they'll try and make sure the tech's perfect, but you're always going to, make mistakes along the way. And there's stuff that we've released, which great, it was right first time and we haven't had to touch it. But there are sometimes you'll attack a problem in a certain way and you'll release it and it's work and it's great and it'll solve a pain point. But then maybe behind the scenes you need to, there was a better way to do it and you can refactor that, and that will always happen. There'll always be mistakes you make along the way, but always try to kind of release and get stuff out for people to test. And then coming from kind of moving from that, startup to scale up phase, I'd definitely say culture is probably one of the number one things. And getting the right team mix, making sure that early on you're hiring kind of senior autonomous people who can build amazing products, but do it, you don't need to kind of micromanage those people. You can let them get on with it. That's been a massive one for us. We've got an incredible team. And then installing, your vision of the culture into those people as well, because you're probably in control of your workplace culture to about maybe 30 people. And then beyond that, it's kind of away from you to actually be able to control that. And it will kind of take on a life of its own. But if you've installed that those principles and that culture into your team, then that gets passed on to the new people, and
that's planted the seed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for us, we from the first hire, we were really conscious of making sure that Emerge was kind of a great place to work, and that we had all of those all those elements kind of installed in the team. So that's been a big part of the success for sure.
Now, I noticed on your profile that you had a stint at Health Alliance back in the day, amongst all of your other financial services organizations. We do a lot of work in health. Most of our customers currently are in health, and I'm just interested in your contrast between the financial sector and the health sector. What are your thoughts on that? I know it's a while back now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a while back. There are some similarities between health and banking for sure, and I think there's a lot of scale, and that scale brings a lot of inefficiencies. And so, there are these kind of behemoth companies that are slow to move, and it's hard to embrace technology. And for those reasons, a lot of the time it's kind of hard to innovate. I mean, I was there while they were trying to go through an upgrade of, I think it was a Windows upgrade they were trying to install through all the hospitals, and it was a real eye-opener into the amount of complexity in all the systems, and trying to unpick all that was just massive. And I think, that's a similar story at the banks, and the reasons that it is tricky for them to innovate at times isn't because they don't want to. It's because they've got, they've got so many people, they've got all these systems that they've been running for, 50, 60 years with kind of spaghetti code and stuff that they have to unpick. And a lot of them are going through core transformations to try and solve that. But, right now you think, okay, well, why aren't they doing that? That's really simple for you. It seems like it's simple, but actually all of the different things that it touches is incredibly complex, and it's such a interwoven system, and there's so much riding on it. And banks need to keep that hold on people's trust, that it's really difficult to kind of move at pace. So definitely saw some similarities there.
I guess money and health are kind of two things that are really important to most people.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a big conversation going on at the moment, of course, with the transformation into Fataora, about how to get that kind of innovative thinking going in health. So maybe they'll invite you back someday.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, and we've, actually on the spending side as well, there's, in the health sector, there's a lot of teams that need to be managed, but also, issuing payments and credits to patients. There's people being issued with paper vouchers that they need to go and spend on fuel and things like that. So, yeah, certainly there's a place for a solution like ours to move into spaces like that.
Well, it's been really awesome to listen to your vision and the details behind it. Jamie, thanks for coming in, and thanks for the product. We're really enjoying it, and I'm sure that many others will be adopting it over time. So well done, and congratulations, and thanks for coming and talking to us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.